Welcome, everyone. We are going to do a half an hour introduction to the emotional intelligence part 2. Keep an eye out for the third part for next week. So as people are checking in, let's start. All right. So I wanted to switch my camera off. Let me switch it off. Okay. So maybe this will also help with the flow. Okay, so for those of you who know me by now, I'm Cecilia Denton, and I'm an industrial psychologist. I'm the owner of PTES Consulting, and we do mainly psychometric assessment on a daily basis for recruitment, personal development, and it was within doing that we can see, training parts that are that needs to be developed. And things that we can see with people at the moment is stress management. Emotional intelligence is just always a very hot topic to do. And because this is something you can practice and you can get better at. And I always want to say thank you to HR Talk for arranging the webinars and doing it for us and sending the invites. So thank you for that. All right. So before I start talking about famous personalities with high EQ, I want to share a personal thing with you. So this is, I want to use it as an example of emotional intelligence, and I want to explain how you want to look at it. So last week, just before I started the session, literally 15 minutes before the session started, I got a phone call. I knew my mother was in hospital, but they literally told me 15 minutes before the time that she's got a brain tumor and it's bleeding. So part of emotional intelligence would probably, because I thought about it, one can keep quiet because some things are private, it's personal, but what would be helpful is if one sometimes share some of your personal feelings just to take the pressure off. Now, emotional intelligence does not mean you have to share ideas, feelings, personal things that you're going through. It doesn't mean that at all. But what could be helpful is if you constructively share certain things, because it does show people what is going on. It will shed a little bit more light. It could take a little bit of the pressure off of you. So, but I just wanted to share that because I thought, I did stumble over some of my words, which is usually attributed to the coffee that I drink in the morning. But when you just have a blank here and there, it could be also due to pressure or stress. And to share something that's going on with you, not looking for sympathy necessarily or attention or whatever, but just to share your experience or what you're going through could be helpful. So I just wanted to mention that because I thought to myself, I could have said something and everyone in this group would have understood and maybe even appreciated it. But also then again, maybe sometimes you don't want to share a private thing. But I just wanted to lead with that because I wanted to give you an example of, what that is. And actually also emotional intelligence is more the awareness of what is going on with you. That's what I'm trying to get through to you, because someone has asked me they asked me the other day and I said, but what is it? What is the first step towards it? What is it? How do I get better at it if I don't know what it is? And it is basically an awareness of what's going on with you and an awareness of what's going on with other people. You don't have to change something. You don't have to control something. You don't have to make it better necessarily. You don't have to necessarily even act. The awareness is already a massive step towards that. Even being aware of the influence or the effect that caffeine has on your body early in the morning, it's an awareness. And there's an awareness around big things, small things, medium things. The whole thing around emotions is that it's very subtle. It's subtle, that it creeps up on you. So that is the trick, to be able to gauge that. Things that's black and white, where your intelligence is involved. It's almost easier because it's black and white. You just need to figure it out. But emotional intelligence is way more subtle. It's influential. It's gray. Let's put it that way. So, okay. I just wanted to share that with you. But let's jump right into famous personalities with a high EQ. So there's probably many examples, but let's look at the first one here. So Leonardo DiCaprio. So at just the age of 24, DiCaprio established the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation that was committed to promote environmental awareness, especially global warming. The foundation has worked in over 40 countries and has 2 short web documentaries to its credit. The first one is Water Planet, and global warming is the second one. And then in 2016, he met with the Pope and spoke about environmental issues. So moved was the Pope that he agreed to act in a charity film, Beyond the Sun, a record of sorts. Okay, so I haven't watched any of these, but I've watched many of the other documentaries that's on Netflix at the moment, but I would like to have a look at this. But he is quite a good example. You know, I absolutely love his movies. I think that it was very strange in the Emotional Intelligence Part 1. He's almost in all the movies around some of the examples that I've showed about, you know, environmental disasters and things like that that's happening. That's just by chance. But love the actor, love his movies. Many would probably criticize his dating life, but you know what? What does that have to do with us? And the man can do whatever he wants. But anyway, that's not for now. Just to give him as an example to you about someone that's aware, just aware. And then let's look at Keanu Reeves. So Keanu Reeves is a very interesting person. And, you know, whenever you read something online about any of the actors, you don't always know what to believe and what not to believe. But, I mean, I've seen many things around him. He does look like he's a emotionally intelligent or just an aware person. So there has been rumors about him sharing his income with people. So not a slave to the dollar. Keanu Reeves is known to be very humble. There have been multiple instances showing just how grounded he is. So be it the news of him splitting his hefty paycheck with the film's makeup and special effects team. So apparently that happened during the movie The Matrix, or waiting in queue to get into his own private party. Reeves is known to be a celebrity who is in touch with his emotional side. So that's interesting. I've heard some good things about him, especially around the humbleness. All right, so let's jump to the next slide. Here's George Clooney. So I love him purely because of his link to the Nespresso coffee. I am so into the coffee and the brand, it's scary. So not only for his stunningly good looks, Clooney is known to be a huge supporter of peace and anti-war movements. He has been outspoken about gay rights and support towards refugees. He is one of the primary associates of the 100 Lives Initiative, a project that remembers lives lost during the Armenian genocide. Clooney also launched the Aurora Prize that awards those who risk their lives to prevent genocides and human atrocities. He's quite involved. You know, whether he's right or wrong, the person is involved. The person cares. He cares about societal things. That is another thing about maturity. In South Africa, I think because of probably like many countries, we're not the only country, but in our country, I think our societies have sort of dismantled. It's every man for himself. Remember that a mature thing is to look after your society, to move beyond the family, and just be aware and help where you can. And that's what I like about him. All right, and then, of course, you knew I was going to bring up Princess Diana. You knew that we were going to refer to her. She is in all of these types of discussions. So arguably, the most loved princess of her time, Diana showed great respect towards foreign cultures during her speeches. We all know what she did. I grew up with her visiting African countries and hospitals. So she wowed the world in 1989. I was then in Standard 6. When she visited the pediatric unit of the Harlem Hospital, where she spontaneously hugged an HIV-positive child that led to breaking of the global stereotype of the illness. I remember that very well. I was very, very young when she was doing these types of things. All right, so let's do a test. I want to keep an eye on the time because I don't want to waste your time with speaking too much random things about emotional intelligence. But let's do a test, and let's test your own EQ. So you don't have to write anything down. I just want you to, in a relaxed, aware manner, think about what it is that I'm going to share with you now, and think about your answer. If you do not have an answer, it's totally okay. Don't push anything. Just relax and think about it, because what we are doing today is creating an awareness. Right, these are the things that we're going to look at. First is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. That would be, in short, the components that make up emotional intelligence. Here and there, we can change something, add something, but this probably is most of it. So let's look at self-awareness. All right, so the first question, there's three questions. Let's look at the first one. I can recognize my emotions as I experience them. So think about yourself. Can you recognize your own emotions as you experience them? Sometimes, maybe never, maybe a lot. Right. The second question, I know my strengths and weaknesses. This is very important because this is how you get to know yourself. Which buttons is the thing that sets you off, and where do you know you are strong? And then the last question, I ask people for feedback on what I do well and how I can improve. I must tell you, I sometimes dodge this one. I'm fairly open to it. I'm better now than I was, but I think a lot of people are scared of this. And this is also a thing that can cause a massive amount of stress because one wants to be perfect and you don't want to hear that you can do better. So it can be a vulnerable point for you. So in his 1995 book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ, Goleman explained that people with high self-awareness are aware of their moods as they're having them. So this is one of those first books that came out when emotional intelligence became quite a prominent thing, when it came to the forefront. So it may be good for you to read up on some of these books, but I always keep this in mind. Emotionally intelligent people are aware of their moods as they are having them, even being aware of the fact that something is not actually moving you. So whatever it is that you experience, remember, emotional intelligence is not being aware of a tantrum or a negative feeling or a frustration or anger necessarily. It can be any emotion. It can be neutral or it can be happy. It is all the emotions. It's not just the negative ones or the things that irritate you or frustrate you. That's commonly the misperception that we have. And then to increase self-awareness, learn about mindfulness. This involves focusing on the present moment, including how you're feeling. And keep a journal in which you write about and analyze the emotional situations that you experience from day to day. It's just being aware. And then the last thing here, you also need to understand your strengths and weaknesses to build self-awareness. Do a personal SWOT analysis and ask for feedback from your boss, friends, or trusted colleagues to find out how you can improve further. So I can give you a very good example here. I've got a place that I Airbnb, and people leave on online reviews. So I am I've got such a massive standard on myself and a high expectation. I'm so scared of a negative review that even though it's good, because my average at the moment is, it's all fives, it's perfect, I'm wonderful, I'm just great. But the pressure that it's putting on myself to keep it at that level, that is the thing you want to be aware of. To be aware of your vulnerabilities, that maybe someone finds a hair somewhere and gives you a negative review on a specific part of it. It's not the end of the world. So now, with some time has passed, and I've realized that I'm trying to keep the standards there. And the thing is, it's good to want to keep the standard there. But as they teach you when you do meditation, and if you go more into the spiritual part of things, they will tell you, aim very, very high, but drop the feverishness. I absolutely love that. So pursue everything that you want to. Study hard, work hard, try to get all 5 reviews and keep a high standard, but drop the feverishness, because that is the thing that gets you. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be perfect. We also do get unreasonable people, and sometimes someone is just unreasonable. Keep an open flexibility for that as well. Right, let's go to the next question. Self-regulation. First question, I lose my temper when I feel frustrated. The second question, I know how to calm myself down when I feel anxious or upset. Third question, I find it difficult to move on when I feel frustrated or unhappy. So how do you rate yourself on these 3 questions? So the first one, self-regulation, is about staying in control. To develop your skills in this area, learn how to manage your emotions effectively. Now, it doesn't mean that you are not emotionally intelligent or mature if you don't keep control constantly. I myself have my little tantrums here and there. You are more than entitled to it. I think it would be important not to constantly have the losing of the temper or losing control. Here and there, if it happens, it's fine. It doesn't mean anything. But for the most part, you want to try and see if you can regulate your own emotions. And the regulation can only come from an awareness of what was the situation that happened and how did you respond to it. If you don't have that, I mean, it's how are you going to regulate yourself? You need to have awareness from step 1. And that is when the thing happens, and then you're thinking about what is happening, and then how do you feel about it, and then only can you regulate it. All right, and then if you often get angry, note what triggers this feeling, and think about why this happens. Use techniques such as deep breathing to calm yourself down, and give yourself time to pause before you respond to emails or requests so that you don't regret something later. So I've learned, for me, it's a habit. I read an email, I respond later. Forget about responding immediately. Don't do that to yourself. Read it, go back to it. Don't respond. You do not have to. Give yourself time. This is the one thing that we don't think we've got. That's what we do have. We do have time. Time to think about and reflect and then respond. You may also be affected by other negative feelings and emotions such as anxiety and stress. So do what you can to manage these feelings effectively. And if there's sometimes where you don't, it's also okay. Really. If you don't always get a review of 5 on Airbnb, it's really not the end of the world. You will remember for you who was here last week, I told you that we are 25,000 years traveling away from the closest sun. So really, we're a blip on the radar. Don't take everything so seriously. Things happens. You can still see if the extreme caffeine is still having an effect on my speech, and I don't regret it for 1 second. That Clooney coffee is absolutely great. Last point here, accountability is another important element of self-regulation. Take responsibility for your actions and behaviors and make sure that this align with your values. All right, let's look at motivation. Let's look at these questions. I find it hard to focus on something over the long term. Second question, I feel that I don't enjoy my work. Third question, I set long-term goals and review my progress regularly. If you postpone, if you procrastinate, why do you do it and when do you do it? If there is one thing that you keep on postponing and procrastinating on, it could be because you've got stress about that one particular thing. So, for example, studying, and you keep on procrastinating and postponing that one particular thing, then that one particular thing may be causing you stress. But be aware whether you postpone and procrastinate on every single thing, Also remember, you can be a process-orientated person versus being a results-orientated person. That's also a personality preference, but be aware of when and how you postpone and procrastinate on things. You could be very calm and procrastinating and postponing. That just means that's the way that you're dealing with your stress. So you may think you're not stressed. But keep an eye on your discipline. Be very aware of your self-discipline and your conscientiousness. And write down what you need to do. Make your goals reasonable, practical, and without being too rigid and pedantic, stick to them. Have open place for flexibility as well. Let's look at empathy. Question 1. People have told me that I'm a good listener. I don't think many people have told me that before, but I get good feedback and reactions from people because I do try and practice that. Second point, I find it difficult to read other people's emotions. I'm pretty good with that. It's now my own scoring of myself, because I get a feeling immediately and I react to that feeling. Don't ignore things that's popping up in you. Also, don't necessarily make it a truth when something pops up in your head. First, explore a little, be curious. And then the third point, I use active listening skills when people speak to me. You can practice that. Don't just accept that you're a good listener. Don't just accept that. Ask yourself whether you can listen. Ask yourself whether you are actually hearing the person, and keep your mouth closed when other people are talking. Really practice this. None of us are good with that. You need to practice it. We are so self-absorbed, wanting to get our own viewpoint out and squeeze it out. Be aware of that. Selfishness is also, unfortunately, a thing that's rampant currently, and selfish people don't know that they're selfish. And remember, there'll be a little bit of selfishness in all of us. Don't point the finger only to other people. Be aware of your own selfishness. Okay, this is the empathy technique. So the perceptual positions technique can give you a particular sharp insight into what other people may be thinking and feeling. So position 1 is your position looking through your own eyes. Position 2, looking back at yourself. The other person looking back at you. And then position 3 is being a fly on the wall. So did you get that? This would be the way that you can look at a situation. So position 1 is you looking at it through your eyes. Position 2 is of the other person looking back at you. And then position 3 is the fly on the wall looking down on the scene. All right, so be aware of that. Oh goodness, I jumped. I just want to give you an example here. So with the issue with my mother at the moment being in hospital, so I've been a little edgy this week. So I was telling myself, yeah, but I've got good reason. So yes, that's true. But I've been edgy with my partner. And then I thought, okay, but just see it through his eyes. How many punches can he take? You also need to be aware of what it is that you're taking out on the other person. So looking at it from his eyes. And then if you look at position number 3, the fly on the wall would be, if you look at both people or the whole entire scenario, it's a pressurized scenario. So what I focused on was emptying my plate, delegating tasks to others, making sure that I get very good sleep. And I did not cut on the caffeine and the coffee. That was a conscious choice. But just looking at it, just stepping back, taking a breath and evaluating your situation. And just by getting rid of certain demanding cognitive tasks at work, it's helped me tremendously already. Okay, let's look at social skills. I don't want to run out of time. I don't want to waste anyone's time that's leaving for meetings. So social skills, I enjoy organizing groups. Second question, I avoid conflict and negotiations. I hate negotiations. I hate charging people. Also, I'm paid for them. It's a thing that I have. And then thirdly, I struggle to build rapport with other people. If you're good at some of them, it's great. Maybe there's some development areas. Be aware of that. So if you're not a natural people person, it is possible to develop better social skills. Go join people. An introvert don't have to become an extrovert. You don't have to talk for the sake of talking, but engage, be curious. Just be there as well. Don't shy away from negative situations. Learn how to deal with conflict in other situations effectively. And then if you're uncomfortable with social situations, work on building self-confidence. Start slowly, but then look for opportunities to practice your skills within bigger groups. Ask people about themselves. Stop thinking only about you. Ask people about themselves. Really listen. What are they going through? And don't always think how you can relate. Because when we relate, we start talking about ourselves. Yes, you can relate, but you don't have to talk about yourself. Be interested and curious about the other person for a change. You will see it takes a little pressure off of you. Okay, I do want to quickly go through interview questions that you can ask someone in an interview. So for those of you who are in HR or line managers that needs to interview people and you want to have a glimpse into their EQ, ask questions, but don't jump to conclusions too quickly. You want to ask a few questions and give the person an opportunity to think. Don't push them for an answer. This is critical because they need to think of a time and a time when it happened and an experience where it happened. So let's look at the first question. You always want to start it like this. Tell me about a time when your mood had an impact on your work. This could be positive or negative. Don't look for a positive example. It can be positive or negative. They have to give you an example. We're not just looking at positives here or at negatives here. We're looking at all. So you want them to be able to recognize their own emotions. So it can be a good or a negative thing. Then second question, describe an example of when you had to be confrontational to achieve results. What do you do and how was it received? So once again, they could provide a positive or a negative example. You want to see whether they can identify their own emotions, manage it, and control the situation. Okay, and third question. Tell me about a time when you had to neutralize a stressful situation in a professional environment. So you want to look at the choice of words, how they timed it, how they voiced it. So you want to see whether they are mature and does not shy away from conflict. Once again, they provide a positive or a negative example. You want to identify their social awareness and social skills. So yesterday I spoke to a new doctor about my mother, and they brought up new information that I wasn't aware of. So I very clearly and constructively stated I was aware of this, but not of that. And I also showed agreement with the doctor in order to move the conversations forward. But I had to bring up the areas where there was a massive gap in communication. And then tell me about a time when you had to work cohesively as a team with people you didn't like. That happens with everyone, and it's a good question. So you want to see whether the individual has the maturity to recognize that you do not have to like everyone, but deal with them objectively and professionally. Therefore, if you struggle with someone, you don't just resign or jump jobs, because I see it happens today a lot. People just resign a job because I don't like my colleague or they differ from me. That's nonsense. That is a reflection of poor resilience. You try and work through it. So you want to see whether the person can deal objectively and professionally. So here I can also tell you, scrutinize people's CVs. If they jump around a lot, if they've got this 3-month thing, I work at a place for 3 months to 6 months, and then I have that unexplained periods of unemployment in between. As cliche as it sounds, I can tell you now that links directly to the psychometric results and I'm not talking about once or twice, I'm talking about that's their pattern. So if there's a pattern and it's patched like that, I would then get the person psychometrically evaluated. Because you will get an indication of low self-direction, low self-management, low resilience. When you differ from me, I will just resign. I'm not going to do what you tell me. Keep an eye out for that. And then the last question, describe a time when you had to deliver some bad news to someone. You want to identify their ability to listen, show empathy, understand others' emotions. So someone can even give you an example of a private personal situation. It does not necessarily have to be at work, but they can give you an example of a private situation because they still applied their skill and their competence in order to deliver the news. Okay, so I'm going to give you a chance to give me some questions. So I'm going to go to the chat box here, and please share some questions with us. I don't want to go over the time too much, and I already did that. I am so sorry. But anyone who wants to share a question on emotional intelligence, please put it in the chat box. And then I hope to see you again next week for the last session on emotional intelligence. And also remember, you will receive the recording of this session today, and you are welcome to contact us if you want customized training, something that is a little bit more specific for your teams. And you can do short bursts of training, or you can do lengthy sessions of training. But one can customize it specifically to the group of people that you want to address. All right. So any questions? It looks like there's no questions from anyone. I just want to make sure that maybe let me stop the sharing. Okay, it looks like no one has got questions for me. I don't believe you. You're hiding your true feelings from me. So put your thoughts in the chat box, and let me just also switch off my camera so that I can at least just greet you before we go. Anyone who wants to share a private thought or something that happens in the workplace that they don't know. So there's someone who put up their hand. Lucas, do you want to share a thought, or do you want to type it, or you can unmute yourself? I don't know if it's possible. But or you're just waving goodbye. It could be anything.
No, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please share.
I know. I just wanted to find out where can we get these recordings.
Charlene, when will they receive the recordings? Do you automatically mail it, or do they have to request it?
No, Celia,
Wow.
once the recording has been edited and uploaded onto our socials and website, then it is shared with all the attendees.
Oh,
Okay, brilliant. Yes, there's your answer, Lucas. All right.
Thank you so
and then,
much.
Thank you, Lucas. And then someone typed a message in the box here. It says, how do you deal with someone, a man specifically, who's extremely emotional at work? Whenever you try to point out the errors, they get angry and emotional. So if you are certain that it's not a current thing that they're going through, so maybe a traumatic event or something like that, but you know that this is how the person is, you do want to neutralize it by not taking the bait when the person responds emotionally. What you want to do is always refer back to the job description and the way that it's supposed to be done, and to not get sidetracked with subjective things that the person is talking about. Listen, it's going to inevitably be an emotionally draining conversation or interaction, but you also do not want to avoid the person because there's anger and emotional responses when you talk to them. As a matter of fact, you want to get that person into that habit of having those discussions and refer it back to what is required and the way that the job needs to be done. It also depends on how old they are, because I don't want to say too much about that, but sometimes if someone is younger and they don't have a lot of resilience, you may get this type of, but it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter who the person is, the age they are, and even also the emotional thing that they're going through, because you do want to, what you can actually approach them with is with empathy, not pity or feeling sorry for them. Not in that way. You want to approach them with empathy, putting yourself in their shoes, because what you can do is to ask, do you have what it is that you need to deal with? How can I support you? What is it that you're struggling with? How can I create an environment for you to make it easier for you or to help you? That is the structure you put in place. Then you do talk about what is required, by when, what is the level that we need you to be on. And it can be like a performance discussion. If the person then is still quite emotional or angry, that's got nothing to do with you. You focus on the facts. But what will help you is to create that support and say, how can I help you? How can I support you? What is it that you don't have? And because doing it like that, you'll get more out of the person. It may be irritating to you, but you can get more. And then there is another question. Describe a time you spoke to a colleague and they started crying. Describe a time you spoke to a colleague and they started crying. Wow. I think that has happened to me before, but it wasn't a colleague. Then when as a matter of fact, I've spoken to a person that I know is a narcissist. So a narcissist may start, I can't generalize like that. I know that the person that I spoke to was a diagnosed personality disorder, narcissistic, and what they call is a narcissistic injury. And then that's how the person will respond, because they actually crumble. The ego is very soft. But this was really a diagnosed person with a personality disorder. So that would be my response to this competency-based question. If this is what happens when you deal with someone at work that is a normal person, not a diagnosed person, you want to do what it is that I said now, where you approach it empathically, but firmly and assertively, because empathy does not mean sorry, sad, dropping my own standards, and entertaining nonsense. Empathy does not mean that. Empathy means I give you and I support you with what it is that you need. Maybe the person doesn't have internet or a computer, or the computer is slow, or whatever. You want to make sure that they have all the things that they need to be able to work, because then they can also see, but I do have X, Y, and Z in order to do the work. And then you manage it. But be objective. Don't put your personal thing in there where you may be thinking to yourself, how pathetic. Keep that aside and keep it only to the factual, performance-related things. Don't have a tone in your voice. Keep it to the objectivity, to what it is that you need, what they need, because there you are well within your rights to demand what it is that you need for that person to perform. So you don't have to make judgments in terms of this person is narcissistic or weak or this or that. The only thing that's important to you is, because if you do a performance check, a performance review, or a performance discussion, you want to tick certain boxes. And come hell or high water, you tick your boxes. And as long as you know, they know what they need to do, how they need to do it. My communication was reasonable, it was objective. Even if you have to record certain conversations because you may know that you are now busy with performance discussions or counselings or verbal warnings, even record it if you need to. But to make it good for yourself, do not take the bait, and keep it objective, and keep it with empathy and support, because maybe there's really something that you don't know. It's better for you to know everything. I hope that was a mouthful. So anyone who's got a question that they want to add there, let me just refresh the chat box. Okay, how do you deal with someone who is very passionate with their job and takes her work very seriously and gets very emotional and irritated and angry as well when she's around people who are not performing like she does? It is a very emotionally mature thing, because this person probably has a lot of pressure on herself. It's probably a low frustration tolerance for herself. This person actually needs to become aware of the pressure that they put on themselves, and inevitably then others, because an emotionally mature leader will know, this is my standard for myself, but I have to speak the language of the people in my team. So one could have conversations with her and say, listen, you are an incredible performer, you do this and you do that, but you are too hard on yourself and others, and therefore others. And what I would actually suggest with a person like this is to do some sort of an assessment showing that competence. But if someone is very competent, it can sometimes tip over into that where they drive things. This is where the heart attacks comes from. So you just want to soften that sharp edge. I would tell that person, soften that sharp edge. You are stabbing too hard. But I would get someone to work with this person because she's probably fantastic. But let me guess, Gen X. I know I'm I'm just joking, but you do want to actually capitalize on this person. But you need to get around. But why are they pushing so hard? Okay. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Otherwise, people, I'm going to see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. So many of you, I really appreciate it. This is fantastic. It shows me that you want to. We need it, especially when you get in your car on the South African roads today. Be aware of what it is that goes through your head. The road rage is out of control. That's understandable. But be the one who's 5 steps ahead. Let the guy go in front of you. Make space for people. Be patient. We don't have it in South Africa at the moment. So my boyfriend won't agree with me now. He'll shoot me down. So anyway, so anyone who wants to ask another question, otherwise, really, I see you next week. It was really great. I think you're all fantastic. Joining in a disciplined way, listening to what it is that you can improve is fantastic. So Charlene, thank you for arranging everything. We'll see you next week.